Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of HealthCap Weekly Wrap.
We're here to bring you the latest news and insights shaping senior living communities. Everything from regulatory updates to industry trends, and of course, those stories that make you stop and say, wait, what?
No doubt about it. Whether you're an administrator, a caregiver, or just someone passionate about resident care, we've got something for you.
So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into this week's top stories.
Okay, let's dive into a serious topic that's been making headlines: the ongoing lawsuit surrounding Singulair. This asthma and allergy medication has been linked to some pretty severe side effects, and families are taking action.
Yeah, and the thing is, Singulair has been around for a long time, right? So it's a bit surprising to hear about these issues coming to light now. The lawsuits are focusing on mental health side effects like increased anxiety, depression, and even suicidal thoughts. That's really alarming.
Absolutely, and for senior living communities, this raises important questions too. I mean, how often are medications like this prescribed to residents? It's a reminder to always be vigilant about the potential side effects of medications.
Totally. It's about having those open conversations with prescribing physicians, right? Asking questions like, are there alternatives? Or what should we watch for? Because sometimes these side effects aren't obvious until it's unfortunately too late.
And I think this also highlights the importance of monitoring residents closely when they start a new medication. Not just for physical side effects, but for emotional and behavioral changes too. Early detection of side effects can make all the difference.
Yeah, and it's not just about the individual resident either. It's about educating families and staff. So everyone is on the same page. Transparency and communication are key here.
So, take a moment to review the medications your residents or loved ones are taking. If Singulair is on the list, it might be worth having a discussion with their doctor. It's always better to be proactive when it comes to health and safety.
In other news, our sister podcast, Heart to Heart with HealthCap, tackled an important topic this week: CMS schizophrenia audits and their impact on senior living communities. Host Angie Szumlinski sat down with Gwen Ryder from Aspire Health to discuss what these audits mean for providers and how they can prepare.
That's right. Gwen shared her firsthand experience navigating the process and highlighted the challenges communities face when ensuring compliance. It's a complex issue that can directly affect quality ratings and reimbursement.
Yeah, it can. The conversation underscored the importance of being proactive, understanding the audit process, keeping documentation in order, and staying ahead of potential issues before they arise.
And it's not just about compliance. These audits have real implications for resident care and the overall operations of a community. Gwen's insights offered a valuable perspective on how to manage the process effectively.
A must listen for anyone in senior living. Be sure to check out Heart to Heart with HealthCap for the full discussion.
For sure. Staying informed is key, and this episode is a great resource for communities looking to be prepared.
Let's talk about a big update from the OIG. They've released new guidance for nursing facility compliance programs. ACA and Cal recently summarized it, and there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, compliance is always such a major focus, isn't it? And honestly, it should be. But this new guidance seems like it's really emphasizing proactive approaches, right? It's not just about ticking boxes anymore.
Exactly. The focus is on creating a culture of accountability and continuous improvement. It's about making compliance part of the everyday operations rather than just something you scramble to address when there's an audit or a complaint.
Right, and one of the things that stood out to me was how much they're emphasizing risk assessments. It's like, if you can identify potential compliance risks before they become actual problems, you're ahead of the game.
Totally. And this isn't just for administrators either. Staff at all levels need to be involved, from frontline caregivers to leadership teams. Everyone plays a role in maintaining compliance, and that's something the guidance really drives home.
And, they also talked about the importance of training and education. I mean, it's one thing to have policies in place, but if your staff doesn't understand them or doesn't know how to implement them, they're not very effective, are they?
Exactly. And I think this also highlights the need for strong communication within communities. If staff feel comfortable reporting potential issues without fear of retaliation, it makes the whole compliance process more effective.
Yeah, creating that safe space for reporting is huge. And honestly, it's not just about avoiding penalties or citations. It's about building trust within the community, trust among staff, residents, and even families.
This might be a good time to take a closer look at your compliance program. Does it align with this new guidance? Are there areas where you could be more proactive? These are important questions to ask as we move forward.
Absolutely. Compliance isn't just a regulatory requirement. It's a foundation for delivering quality care and building a stronger, more transparent community.
Unannounced CMS site visits are becoming a hot topic, and for good reason. McKnight's recently highlighted how these surprise inspections are catching some providers off guard and raising concerns.
Yeah, and while I get the intent behind these visits, ensuring quality care, it's hard to ignore how disruptive they can feel. Imagine running a busy community and then suddenly having inspectors at your door without warning. It's a lot.
It really is. The unpredictability is what makes it so tough. Most communities are already doing everything they can to stay compliant, but being ready to prove that compliance on the spot is a whole different challenge.
Exactly. And let's not forget the amount of documentation and preparation that goes into these visits. If even one thing is out of place or not up to date, it could have serious consequences.
And the pressure doesn't just stop with leadership. Staff feel it too. These surprise inspections can create a high stress environment where everyone's scrambling to make sure everything is picture perfect.
Right, and when staff are stressed, that tension can ripple through the community. It's easy to see how this could affect residents as well, even if indirectly.
So, what's the solution? I think it comes down to preparation. Regular internal audits, continuous staff training, and keeping documentation up to date can make a huge difference. Being ready for anything means fewer surprises and less scrambling.
Definitely, and communication is just as important. If your team knows what to expect and how to respond, it takes a lot of the uncertainty out of the equation.
And here's the thing, these visits aren't designed to trip anyone up. The goal is to ensure residents are receiving the best care possible. Shifting the mindset from fear to opportunity can make a big difference in how these inspections are handled.
Exactly, and if all of this feels overwhelming, don't forget that HealthCap Risk Management offers consulting services. Whether it's reviewing your processes or providing tailored recommendations, we're here to help communities stay prepared and confident for whatever comes their way.
There's been a major legal update recently. Skilled Nursing News reported that a judge has rejected the bid to halt the new nursing home staffing rule. This decision has big implications for senior living communities.
Yeah, and it's been a controversial one, hasn't it? On one hand, you've got advocates saying this rule is essential to ensure residents are getting the care they deserve. But on the other hand, providers are saying it's going to be a huge challenge to meet these staffing requirements.
Exactly. The pushback has largely been about feasibility, especially with the ongoing staffing shortages in the industry. Many communities are already struggling to recruit and retain staff. Adding new mandates to the mix just compounds the issue.
Right, and it's not like these rules are optional, you know? Communities that can't comply risk fines or other penalties, which could further strain already tight budgets. It's a lot to juggle.
It really is, but here's the thing. Adequate staffing isn't just about compliance. It's about quality of care. Residents thrive when there's enough staff to provide attentive, individualized support, and that's the ultimate goal here, isn't it?
Totally, but let's be realistic. Getting there is going to take time and resources. Communities are going to need support, whether that's through grants, training programs, or even creative recruitment strategies to bring in more talent.
Absolutely, and this is where planning becomes critical. Communities need to assess their current staffing levels, identify gaps, and start building a strategy to meet these new requirements. It's not going to happen overnight, but taking proactive steps now can make a big difference.
It's definitely a challenging time, but it's also an opportunity to strengthen operations and prioritize resident care. With the right approach, communities can meet these requirements and come out even stronger. Now let's talk about the CDC's latest MMWR report. It has some fascinating insights about health trends affecting older adults. It's packed with data that can really help senior living communities tailor their care strategies.
Yeah, and I think what stands out is how much this data emphasizes the importance of proactive health monitoring. For instance, the report highlights vaccination rates among older adults, which, let's be honest, is always a key focus area.
Absolutely. And it's not just about vaccinations either. The report also dives into trends around chronic conditions like diabetes and hypertension. These are things that, if managed early and effectively, can significantly improve quality of life for residents.
Right. And the data isn't just numbers on a page, it's actionable. For example, communities can use this information to identify gaps in their health programs or even to justify new initiatives. It's like having a roadmap for better care.
Totally. And another thing the report touches on is the importance of preventative care. It's a reminder that sometimes small interventions, like regular screenings or wellness check ins, can have a huge impact down the line.
Yeah, and I think it also highlights the need for staff training. When caregivers understand the bigger picture, like how managing chronic conditions fits into overall resident health, they're better equipped to provide targeted, effective care.
Exactly. It's a team effort, isn't it? From leadership to frontline staff, everyone has a role to play in using this kind of data to improve outcomes.
So, whether it's updating care protocols, investing in training, or simply reevaluating your community's health priorities, this report is a valuable resource. It's about turning insights into action for the benefit of residents. Here we are with the last story of the week, and it's an important one. Let's talk about the recent updates to the CMS guidance document, QSO 2512NH. This memo provides essential updates on compliance expectations for nursing homes, and there's a lot here to unpack.
Yeah, and it's not just a new memo, it's an update to an existing document, right? So, for communities already familiar with the original guidance, this is really about refining what's expected and clarifying some of the more challenging aspects.
Exactly. One of the key areas of focus is infection prevention and control. CMS is doubling down on the importance of having dedicated infection preventionists in place and ensuring that their training is up to date. It's clear they're making this a top priority.
And honestly, with everything we've seen in recent years, it makes sense. Having well trained staff focused on infection control can make a massive difference, not just during outbreaks, but in everyday operations.
Another thing this document touches on is staffing requirements. There's a big emphasis on ensuring adequate coverage, especially during off hours and weekends. It's a reminder that compliance isn't just about meeting the bare minimum, it's about consistently providing quality care.
And that ties back to what we talked about earlier with the new staffing rule. It's clear that CMS is serious about addressing staffing issues across the board. Communities are being asked to step up, but it's also an opportunity to strengthen operations and deliver better care.
Right. And what stood out to me was how much CMS is emphasizing documentation. They're really clear that thorough, accurate records are non negotiable. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. And that's a message we hear time and again.
Exactly. And for communities that might be feeling overwhelmed by these updates, it's important to remember that these changes are about setting everyone up for success. The clearer the expectations, the easier it is to meet them.
So, what's the takeaway here? It's time to review your policies and procedures. Make sure your documentation is rock solid, and double check that your infection control and staffing plans align with these updated guidelines. Staying proactive will save a lot of headaches down the road.
And don't forget, HealthCap's Resource and Education Center offers free policies, procedures, manuals, and toolkits to help fill in any gaps you might have. Everything is completely free to anyone who needs it, so take advantage of these resources.
That's a wrap for this week's HealthCap Weekly Wrap. We covered a lot, ranging from Singulair lawsuits and medication risks to the latest OIG guidance on compliance programs.
We also took a look at unannounced CMS site visits, the ongoing legal battle over the nursing home staffing rule, and the CDC's latest health trends for older adults.
Plus, we broke down key updates from CMS's latest guidance and highlighted an important discussion from our sister podcast, Heart to Heart with HealthCap on schizophrenia audits.
As always, thanks for tuning in. Stay informed, stay prepared, and we'll catch you next time on HealthCap Weekly Wrap.